Let's talk about how to hit from the inside. This is a really important skill that you are no doubt going to need to master. Now, to confirm, what we mean by hitting from the inside is that if I drew a line here relative to my sort of target line, as I come down, I want the club head to be hitting from the inside of that line. That's what we really want to be focusing on. We don't want to allow that club head to swing outside coming into this downswing position. Now, equally, what we'll move on to in this lesson as well is we don't actually want to allow the club head to come from the inside and just swing massively to the outside, because that can equally cause things like, hooks, blocks, mis-hitting. So we need to put a blend of both of these moves together, which is what we're going to get into. Now, first things first, let's understand what the arms need to do in the downswings. This is pretty straightforward. So as I initiate my downswing, my left arm just needs to pull. Okay, so as my left arm pulls, coming in towards this downswing position, this obviously helps my club head come from the inside. If I don't do that, and let's say I let my hands go out, you see the problem. Now I'm going to end up swinging above and potentially outside of that target line. The second move is with the right arm. The right arm wants to do two things. It wants to straighten, okay, as I'm demonstrating here, but you also want to make sure that your right arm is acting as a support, right, for the club. So you don't want to pull it down in this sort of direction. You want to make sure when you're pulling it down, your right forearm is pointing more up to the sky, and this basically helps that club come down again from that inside position. The other important thing is that when you start straightening your arm correctly, it gives you width. And golfers who really struggle when it comes to things like 6-iron and above up to driver, that's often because they get very narrow, very this way. If you need better width to give you better distance, to give you better launch angles, that's the movement that you're likely missing. Now, that should help. That will help any golfer who is coming massively over the top in the start of the downswing. However, you might now have a problem, or you may already have an existing problem, which is that you release your arms okay, but you end up swinging too much towards that right-hand side. And that basically means that now we are swinging too much into out. And what you therefore need to learn is a movement which is known as a separation. A separation is relatively simple. It's the idea that my lower body rotates and my upper body does not. And what this does is this basically creates the space. So if you imagine for a moment, I swing up to the top of my backswing, I let my arms come down. Obviously, if I don't turn my lower body, the club is now going to swing outside. If I can move my lower body, that brings the club back on that inside position. And that's why we need this separation. There's two pieces of advice that I'm going to give to you, reference to separation. And these are things that I've noticed with working with lots of students, both face-to-face and online over the last few years, is your backswing position is really pivotal to your ability to separate. So if you can move and allow that, your lower body, okay, so allow my pelvis to move over towards my trail leg, what that ultimately does is that gives you good angles, but what it also does is it alleviates a lot of weight off that lead leg. And if I get the weight off that lead leg, it becomes really easy to start opening up that lower body. If I pivot like this, if I pivot like this, if I pivot like this, you try and open up the hips. If you have too much weight on that lead leg, it becomes a really difficult feat. So I'm not saying I want you to move like this. I want this to stay still, and I want the lower body to move to the right. And what that does is that creates great tilts. As you can see, I'm demonstrating here, that introduces that left side bend, but what it also does is it alleviates that weight pressure. So that will help. And then the second thing is don't underestimate the amount of linear motion that you need. So one of the exercises, again, that I tend to do with students, again, both online and also very much face-to-face, is to position some sort of object. Imagine I'm on a sort of compass here, right? So if I'm facing you guys, you're north, target would be west, behind me south. I've positioned this little laptop stand here southwesterly. And if I swing up to the top of my backswing, and as I come down, I want to move my pelvis in a rotational manner in a southwesterly direction. And doing that whilst keeping my head still, it basically gives me this ability to induce that separation, which means my hands and arms can continue to swing through on plane while simultaneously having that ability to hit from the inside. Break it down. I'll see you soon.